And still breakfast included in it.
I didn't like it.
I lean on the no, of course not. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I lost you. I just
Good morning.
How are you? I'm fine. How are you?
I did listen to
That's the water in there again. I would assume that there's a hose going outside so that it's not ending up in the wall. Because I think that's the condensation. We heard that Tuesday. And our committee was sitting here and hear water running.
She couldn't get out.
Yeah, our mom's going to show right now.
You just came today. Yeah, that was one of that. Get up and speak because we can do
I don't.
So you're renting out your place? Oh, and then, yes, and then we are so we don't make our
Hello everyone, it's 9:02. It's time for the regular monthly board meeting to convene in Fort Clark Springs, July 19th regular board meeting. It's 9:02.
It's not on.
Hello? Hello?
Thank you. It's 9:02, convening the monthly July board meeting of Fort Clark Springs. Can you call it a roll call for a quorum?
Roberson?
Yes.
Sweet?
Here.
Castle?
Here.
Herman?
Here.
And Hagan?
Here.
We have a quorum. Would anybody like to do an invocation? Would you do that, Katie? Thank you.
Lord, we're gathered here this morning on this beautiful day at Fort Clark Springs to conduct the business of the fort. We pray that our board acts on behalf of all of the members here to their benefit. We pray for all of those who are attending this morning and their families and all of the unheard prayers that we silently raise up to you. We ask all of these in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Our first item is announcements and correspondence.
We have, three letters. One of them is, really a complaint that needs to be,
Light.
good point. We don't meet. We have three letters. Now am I on?
Yes.
I usually try to spill something and you're in my way. Okay, we have three letters. One of them is really a complaint that needs to be responded to by Jody and her staff, so we'll pass that on. Another is from Martha Padron. Thank you for the essential role your participation and sponsorship played in the overwhelming success of this year's community 4th of July parade, patriotic program, and fireworks display. Thank you for your patriotism and for being so considerate and generous in allowing our 4th of July committee and Frontier Christmas Committee free use of Empty Saddle, Butcher Block for program vendors, and Creekside for fireworks display. Special thanks to Phil Garcia and the maintenance department for their assistance in providing the tables and chairs, podium, and decorated trailer for our veterans. Many thanks to the maid staff for providing sheets for stage. We greatly appreciate FCS Chief of Security Matt Bland and his staff's assistance with traffic control provided throughout the day, and to Randy Castilla and his crew for fabulous fireworks display. Your valued participation and sponsorship in this community event was critical to its success, which helped make America's 238th birthday a precious memory for the citizens of Fort Clark Springs, the city of Brackettville, and Kinney County. Thank you for your commitment to our community. Sincerely, Martha Padron. How many of you attended? I hear it was a raging success. We also have a letter from D.N. Bauman. In the interest of transparency and the Texas Business Organization Code, the undersigned does hereby demand that all documents of whatever kind for the following items be made available within 10 days of your receipt of this letter. Copy of Articles of Incorporation for the Homeowners Association alleged to be in operation at Fort Clark Springs Incorporated in Kinney County, Texas, and is filed with the Secretary of State's office in Austin, Texas. This document is a public record and required to be available at any time during business hours for public viewing. This information should be readily available to directors and members and the public upon request. This letter is such a request. If the board encounters any difficulty in making these documents available, please immediately notify the undersigned about that difficulty. Sincerely, Deanne Bauman. Oh, did you want to read that letter?
we asked last time for a legal opinion on how much we could clean up on somebody's lot, because we had some neighbors who complained about that had a lot of junk and trash on it. And the problem was, who decides how much is junk and how much can the fort do without becoming liable for it if they damage something on it? So we got an opinion on that from the legal firm. I don't know, do we want to read that? Does anybody want to hear what the?
I'd be glad to read it. It's a little bit long, so settle in. The Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., the association has a resident in Unit 22 that is in violation of the Declaration of Protective Covenants for said unit. The association has previously notified the resident in writing and fined the resident for failing to keep the resident lot free from refuse, junk, excessive growth, or objects. The issue is whether the association can enter the resident's lot to remove the refuse, junk, excessive growth, or objects at the resident's expense. Then there is the rules and analysis and the conclusion. The rules and analysis are very lawyerly. I'll give you the conclusion if you don't mind.
Yes.
Under the remedies provided by the Declaration and the Act, the association is permitted to enter the resident's lot to remove the refuse, junk, excessive growth, or objects at the resident's expense. However, before doing so, the association must give written notice to the resident by certified mail, return receipt requested. In addition, the written notice must inform the resident of his or her statutory right to a hearing. If the association seeks to levy a fine or recover its expense, the written notice to the resident should include the amount of such fine and an estimate of the expenses in the notice. The association's failure to adhere to the Act's requirements could result in a liability to the association for damages.
And I think probably we did everything, but we didn't notify them of a hearing, did we?
Have a hearing? No,
So we have to redo that?
not by my understanding, you have to notify them of a hearing.
That's,
They can ask for a hearing with the board.
but
In addition, the written notice must inform the resident of his or her statutory right to a hearing.
Okay.
I think that's the only thing that we didn't know about before.
Right.
That's why we asked, to make sure that we didn't do something illegally. Yeah, and we'll have to make sure we have, I guess the expenses are not just the fines that they've incurred already, but what the total cost of the cleanup is estimated to be, right?
Correct.
So if we send them that with one certified letter, then we should be all set to proceed, and if they don't respond or do respond, we should be able to
Proceed.
go forward and clear it up.
there's also a letter from Pat Sullivan. This relates to agenda item 11, so I wondered if you wanted me to read that ahead of time. Go ahead now. I'm having such a ball doing this. Dear directors, I strongly urge you to bring forth for reconsideration the tabled agenda item number 20 from the June 21st, 2014 BOD meeting, Fort-owned properties open to members. It is my desire and that of many of my bridge playing friends that the Fort Clark Adult Center be opened at reasonable times upon request of any member. The center does not need to be open Saturday afternoons on a permanent, regular basis, which was never requested. It need only be available by request. It should not be a difficult matter for security, as it hasn't been in the past, given proper notice to open the building for use and re-secure the buildings upon completion of that use. It is unfathomable that an association such as ours should have facilities like the Adult Center unavailable for use by its members at reasonable times. Once again, I urge you to vote putting forth this policy. Adult center available by request for use by members at reasonable times. Sincerely, Pat Sullivan. Patricia A. Sullivan, sorry. We are taking that up in agenda item 11.
Next would be our reading and approval of the minutes of June 21st, 2014.
Just one typo on page 6. Bill Hahn's name is incorrectly spelled.
I have one small typo on that page too. I'll show it to you.
Could we have a motion and a second?
I move to approve the minutes from July 19th, 2014, regular meeting.
I
Second.
second it. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was June 21st, wasn't it?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm reading today's. Sorry. June 21st.
We have a motion and a second to approve the June 21st minutes of 2014 with a few minor typos. Those in favor? All voting in favor? And now we need one for the June 16th workshop meeting, correct? We need to approve those minutes?
Okay, I move to approve the special meeting workshop minutes from June 16th, 2014.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Now for the Director of Operations report.
I'm sorry, could I interrupt? The minutes that you're getting are extremely, you're getting a very detailed, the word, thank you. At my age, it's hard to find those words. And I wonder if you want that much. Monique is very good at picking all this up.
Yeah, I don't, as long as they have the main points.
The official record, you can't put too much information.
I agree with B. It helps us when we look back, the more information in the minutes, and you do an excellent job.
Yes, she does. I think we should thank her for that because it's tough.
Thank you.
Look at you.
The Director of Operations report.
Need to move?
No.
Oh. That's why I gave it to you first. That's why I moved it.
Good morning. Happy Saturday. Yay. I don't think this mic is on. Is it? Okay, good. It's been a busy month of mowing. Obviously, we can tell that we still need volunteers to help mow. Taking them right now. Anyone? No? Okay. It's been a busy week of cleanup. We've been running crazy with trying to keep up with mowing, trash, tree limbs. TCEQ's been out a few times. Right after the flood, some people had called with some blockage in the stream, mainly behind Unit 1. Got all that cleared up, and while they were here, since we saw them so often, at least once a week, we offered them an office. They didn't take me up on it. So anywho, we took them down to the Red Bridge to get some more clarification about this thing of letting water out at the Red Bridge. And I guess there's been some misconceptions in the past that we can hold water, or we can't hold water. And the official thing from the state is that we cannot block water. If we have water running through the spring, we do have to allow flowage out of the lagoon just up from the Red Bridge. So we can't just completely shut off those dams to hold water back. We don't. Nor do we have to open them all the way up and let all the water go out. We just have to have flowage that runs through. So anyone who's concerned about that, just want to help clear that one up.
Yeah, because those dams have been there for such a long period of time. That's what, we haven't in recent history put those dams in.
Right.
And they've been put in for, I don't know, 50 years or more maybe. So we've historically been impounding water. I mean, that, what if Daniel Boone put it in there, Santa Ana, it's been there for a long time. It looks like we would have a leg to stand on there, that we're not impounding any more water than has been ever impounded. It's historically been like that. And the water runs out as much as it runs in.
Roby,
We haven't put a new dam in.
Roby, it's my understanding the ranchers downstream
Right.
were set to sue us.
And they may well, that's why I was asking about this. I don't understand, we've had several droughts, and I don't know that this has ever come up before.
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. It's been a big deal ever since the drought has really hit.
Well, this drought, but I
Even
wasn't here.
previous droughts.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if we let the water out of the Red Bridge Pond right now, it'll go downstream for 20 minutes, and then that's it, because we have that
letting
surge.
it go through. We're not opening up the entire floodgates on both sides. As long as we have water and we're allowing some movement of that water to go through, then we're all good. And we can't just shut off that dam completely. You see what I'm
Can we
saying?
Yeah.
postpone a little bit
Yes.
more and let the
It's closed as far as we're allowed to close it. And then we constantly have to go down there and remove the limbs and the debris. That's another thing that he said when he went down there to look. He's like, you need to get some of this debris out of the way. And that's what we did. State owns the water. Ranchers have water rights that they have to, water their livestock. So they override us. We can't just hold it all back.
Right, and I understand we couldn't put a new dam in to stop water from going to somebody that's historically having water. But it looks like we should be able to impound that water that's always been impounded and not let it out. Because if the creek stops running and we let that water out, it won't go very far before it won't go downstream.
It doesn't matter. If we have water coming through, we have to let it go through.
No,
That's just how it is. I don't know. There's no way around that.
Garland, you had
That issue was addressed when I sat on the board, and the opening that's at the Red Bridge right now was set with TCEQ, and we can't change it. I mean, that came because Mrs. Conley down, ranch down below us, filed a complaint with TCEQ, and she was at the meeting, and it's been like that ever since.
Well, Peggy, you're in the Kinney County Water Board.
Yes, well, and now of course, our area of control is groundwater, which is well water. We are not surface water, but I do have some information because most of the surface water rights that were granted for the state of Texas occurred like in the 50s and 60s. We have a family property out on Pinto Creek, and my dad himself applied for surface water rights and was denied because they were all allocated. Most of them, I would say, pretty much in all areas of the state, were allocated back then. And the only way you can get them now is to buy them or purchase the property. So yes, it does, and one of the things that we're looking at, and that the state's going to be looking at, and I will tell you from now, is how the surface water and the groundwater interrelate. And that's going to be a future thing as we move forward on how to do drought protection and how we're going to address issues of the needs for water. But they're looking at that more closely, and that's going to be something that is actually in our requirements for our groundwater and the wells, how we impact surface water, because it all interacts. But yes, and I'll point out something else, down in, I guess at Aransas Pass or wherever the wildlife refuge is that has the whooping cranes, they are suing SAWS in San Antonio because SAWS did not release enough water to go through. It changed the salinity of the bay and has decreased or caused deaths in the whooping crane population. So this is a statewide thing. They're not just picking on the Fort, but it's something that You have to let your water flow through. Things downstream, you know, there are issues with rice farmers in Houston and the people at Lake Travis in Austin. So it's a concern statewide.
Isn't there didn't somebody out there on Mud Creek build a pond here a while back, a lake, a big tank?
That has been there now. I will tell you, well, a big tank, I'm not sure about that. You are allowed, under guidelines of the state, if you, you can build a tank for agricultural purposes, and you can actually use groundwater to fill that tank. Now, you cannot take your groundwater from a well and pump it into a creek unless you have a bed and bank statement from TCEQ, or a permit rather from TCEQ.
And that may be why they got to do it for agricultural uses where ours is not.
You can, and it doesn't have to be like a real formal tank. It can be, you know, for ag use. But there is, you know, there are, I'm sure Jody knows the water master, she's dealing with TCEQ, but it's something that's been in place for a long time.
Well, and the fort's been in place for a long time. That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
You know,
yes,
we should
that's
have, you know, some rights on that. Well,
I'm 80 years old. I was here during World War II on the fort. I know when the dam was built. It was built for you to go down and have a garden down. And everybody that lived on the fort was supposed to go down and help.
well, and there's
The
a,
garden. So it was built for that purpose. But I did believe that the rules say have to let the water down. Just run through. And it's healthy for the pond because it's a change. And I just wanted to give that information.
I just don't want to have to drain it unless we just definitely have to do it. I mean, it looks like we have some sort of fight, dog, in that fight to do that.
But we're
You know,
not,
we can't stop all the water. If there's water running in, we should let some out.
you have to.
But we shouldn't have just a mud flat out there unless, of course, if the creek quits running, then
Well,
we're
that's what
done.
happened right before the flood, is there was no water running. It wasn't running over through the spillway because we didn't have it coming out of the
Right.
stream. So nobody ever drained it other than the sun taking it.
Well, but until TCQ came down here, we did have that dam shut more than it is now, probably. I don't know, we never did?
No.
Okay.
Not since I've
Okay.
been here, no.
Could I make one additional comment about that? I know you're not to that agenda item, but that, you know, with the moving of the gauge, using those gauge readings are one way to monitor what the spring flow actually is. Because if you don't have the spring flow from the spring, then you can't be, and you have the data to prove it, that's your defense. So people can't say you're holding water when you're really not. It's a lack of flow coming from the spring.
Right.
So accurate readings are very important, especially, I'm sure Ms. Jody knows, when you're dealing with state entities. They want to look at correct, accurate, scientific data. And that's really the only way you can defend yourself.
Debbie?
Also back in 2011, 2012, they actually pulled the boards up and lowered the flow of the water coming into the spring area over there, where we had to drain the whole pond area down to a certain level past that back in that time that they were going to start finding us so much a day. And I don't know if that had ever been done previous to that time either.
It seems like we got kind of rawhided over previous times. Maybe the laws have changed and we have to do it, but I just don't, the thing has been there historically like it is now. We haven't changed it. We haven't made new improvements. We haven't raised the banks. We haven't raised the floodgates. It's been like that forever. And it looks like that would count for something. I guess we'll just have to.
Sir, I'm sorry, I don't, in the world of water, really nothing's grandfathered. Times are changing and it's gonna get worse as Texas population grows and if we keep having droughts. So I really don't think that they would allow anything to be grandfathered.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
One more thing.
Yep.
On the water, I remember Matt Mendelson had a big desk, and it was this high in papers. And the request came through from the state, what do you want to use your water for? And he didn't fill it out. He didn't even see it. And he filled it out for agricultural use, for watering golf courses or gardens or something like that. We probably be okay. But he didn't, so he got number 7 on the list. It's the only thing he could get was the recreation use. And that doesn't rank very high as far as the uses of the water, at least to say the pool. Now, having said that, I think we need an attorney who is up to date on water laws in Texas. And we had one in here a few weeks back, and I think, we could consult somebody like that. Any attorney can look up the laws, but one that's already been in there fighting with it, and this particular man did work for Saws at one time. Now he likes to fight him. Might be good to look into that. I'm speaking about Mr. Earl. Over there.
Ask the water board, they're right here.
What?
Go ahead, Jody.
Why don't you ask the people at the water board, they have the lawyers and they're right here too.
Yeah, I don't know if they work for us or not.
Well, they don't work for us, but you can find out.
Okay, we could go on and on for water, especially with Mr. Earl. So, some of the other problems that we get a lot of in the office, complaints, barking dogs, runaway dogs, feral cats. I mean, it's a constant, and some of the board doesn't get to hear about this as much as we're hearing, because it's becoming more and more. Dogs and animals not being taken care of. The city of Brackettville closed down their little containment area for pets, so that's why sometimes when you come into security, you're seeing dogs chained up there, because we're hoping the loose dogs that security is capturing, somebody's going to know who that dog belongs to. At some point, we're going to have to enforce some type of humane rules for these animals, where there's spay, neuter requirements. Obviously, we've been putting, certain units have, you can have 3 dogs or 4 dogs, and we've been diligent about writing those violation letters and also placing fines. And then once you accrue so many fines, we place the liens. There's only so much that we can do. I know there was a most recent case last week where security had to go and testify in a particular case because there were 2 pit bulls that constantly kept getting out in a unit, constantly. And at some point, not that I don't know if the dogs were aggressive or not aggressive, but neither here nor there, they run up to people, and while they were walking and scaring the person, and so showing some type of aggressive behavior at that point in time. So they actually went to a civil case here at Brackettville, and actually these people now have to get rid of the two animals because they can't keep them contained. Again, there's so much we can do. That's why it went to court in town. So barking dogs, I know it's a nuisance. I would hope that you have a relationship with your neighbor. You can go over and have a conversation. Sometimes that doesn't work, I understand that. But we are doing our best that we can do. At some point, like I said, we're going to have to do something because there's dogs that are chained up to trees with no water, no food, completely just having to be outside in the storms that we just had. And it's really not, it's deplorable. But we're getting it constant. My security calls me in the middle of the night. What do you want me to do with this dog? We have in our security office dog bowls, dog food, cat food, so that, in the meantime, until we find a home or solution for these animals, we're trying to give them some type of treatment and love. But it's constant. You have no idea. People are yelling at Renee, saying, how come, these dogs are still barking? What are you doing? And we're doing as much as we can. At some point, some rules are going to have to change. Yeah, Shelley.
I testified in that case, it was Thursday, and the judge found, in accordance with Texas law, that those dogs were deemed aggressive and dangerous. They are not to be taken from the board. He has 30 days to comply with the Texas law. There's Matt and with the Texas law concerning the liability insurance policy that they must carry, no option. And the 30 days to do that. He can tell you exactly. But at any rate, they have not been forced to get rid of the dogs yet. They will be seized by the sheriff's department if they do not show proof in 30 days of having them. And also, I understand the female is pregnant. going to have additional pit bulls. There's one next door. These people are behind me. I have witnessed all of this. I've witnessed neighbors coming out with their gun in their hand because of these dogs. You need to get something done.
Yes, and I want to bring this up because it is just a constant. I mean, security reports are constant. I mean, stacks of paperwork. Architectural can attest to this too, because they have to hear those complaints, and it's getting so bad that we do have to do something.
I mean, I don't know what we can do. Can you bring us something that we can look at next time? I mean, I don't know how you.
They have to show their vaccinations.
Yeah, you do
Everyone
have that.
on this board is supposed to have a copy of their vaccination at that office. There's one of these dogs that is not vaccinated. There's three they had papers on and one they did not. And I couldn't hear anything because the court is so bad about the hearing between your edits. It's hard to hear. But I believe they made the excuse because she's pregnant. She's not vaccinated.
And part of that rule that could be changed is just like we enforce that has to be some type of size fencing that the dogs have to be in. Again, I think that we talked to Angela Hahn at some point about turning the dog park into not just the dog park, but underneath the pavilion, you could put some cages for a holding space. That way, if we were to capture your dogs, we have somewhere to take it that's humane and until somebody comes and picks it up. There's a lot of things we can get into that subject at another time, but I'm just bringing it to the forefront.
The other thing, some part of that would be the CCNRs, which allow the number of animals
Right.
per unit. Some people are abusing that privilege. If you're allowed 2, why do you have 4? That type of thing. So maybe trying to send notices out on the enforcement of the CCNRs may help some.
Sure. I'm going to go back to the TCQ thing real quick. After the flood, this is why I couldn't, it was kind of frustrating, because after the flood, we had a lot of trash flood in through the channel, coming, through town, through the spring, and a lot of it got kind of built up right behind Unit 1. And it was literally 3 days after the flood. We had our board meeting on Saturday, Tuesday TCQ was here. And, I just wish that, have some patience, we're trying to clean this stuff up, and we had to get into that, into the creek and get all that stuff taken out. Philip and his guys did an outstanding job. And then a little bit, once they opened up that area, trash goes down there. There was another dam that some other member had built out of rock that was not natural, so we had to go, they came back and made us tear that down. Then there goes the trash on down. Well, now guess where it's held up at? Lily pads. Lily pads. So when TCQ came out Thursday, we go down lily pads and we're like, I'm not putting my guys in this. There's snakes, there's just no way. So at what point do we kind of stop calling on ourselves in a sense and just let us have some time to clean it up? So just kind of keep that in mind. But we do comply. This went way longer than I anticipated. This is already a long agenda. Just going to go over financials for the month of June real quick. And then I know there's been lots of discussion about financials. I just want to do kind of get people who haven't been attending for the past 2 years kind of up to speed. And 2012, whenever I came in at the end of 2012, we went through lots of transitions and financial issues and trying to get things cleaned up. I know, Mr. Roberson, that you would like to have 2012 versus 2013 versus 2014 monthly comparisons.
No, just last year to this year, current year to previous year.
Okay, so the thing with 2013 was we went from, it's almost impossible to do because that information is dumped into, some of it's dumped into DOS system. and it's not reading with the QuickBooks system. So as we move forward, and what I've been doing for you guys is, since I created my Excel documents back in 2012, now granted you're going to see a lot of inconsistencies because things have changed, because we have evolved and we have a new accounting system and a new accounting person. So what I've done is completely went back and done 2012, 2013, 2014, month to month to month comparisons. So that when we do these workshops for the budget, you guys are going to will all be well equipped, and you will see some inconsistencies because they used to dump all electricity into the admin and not break it out for maintenance and
Each entity.
Right. So we'll go through all those things. I also put together 16 years of audit reports per company that we have. And when I say company, I mean motel, RV, and so on. So when you get your budget packets and your work packets, you'll have plenty of information so that we can all try to do this together and rebuild and make our future. Okay? Hang on, I don't know why this is not showing. Do you have any applicants yet?
Doesn't want to talk to you.
Seriously? Okay. For whatever reason, it's shown on my screen, but it's not shown on the big screen. Of course.
Tell her, John.
What?
Function key F5. FN and then hit F5 to change the screen from your on. Is your Excel on your screen on your?
Yes.
Hit the FN on the bottom left button. Hold that down and then press F5.
Are you talking, okay.
That will interface a
Wait,
little bit
hold
with
down
the
FN
sheet.
and now hit F5.
No.
Wait, wait, wait. Where's your F5?
Didn't work, John. Okay. So.
Leave the light off so you can see your screen.
Well, it's not even going to show up. I can't believe it.
In fact, we're going to show us there's a problem.
Alright. I'll just go through, I'll just. Hang on. All right, income totals for admin are $112,000.56. $112,000.56. My God, Joey.
Make sure it don't, everything's minimized.
It's not minimized because this is a joke.
Do you want to try?
If I'm asked, I would, but I can't offer.
Okay. True. There's that. There's F5.
F10 on this one. Function F10, see the screen differentials, those little things. Now keep holding it.
I'm all there.
That should change it. There, second screen, move to screen only, second and screen. touch screen, so you have a touch screen interface.
John, that doesn't help me. Because I can't.
John, go back.
Everything that goes on your screen shows up on that screen.
I know,
and
honey,
shows
but
up
it's
on
now
my
not on
phone
my
computer.
screen.
Lights.
She's still fussing.
Well, no, I mean, you're not gonna be able to see that in the back because it's not it's not zoomed out. And
Control plus sign makes this
I
larger
should be able to
on
see this,
Excel.
John.
There it is.
Control plus sign will increase the size.
The problem is she
I
can't
can't
see it
see
on
it on
her
the
screen here.
It's different components interfacing. Every time you upgrade, there's always the frustration of translation.
I think we're going for a record to see how long we can make this meeting today. Okay.
I'll send you the bill.
So there's admin income. You see the membership assessments, and once you guys see the comparisons for previous years, you'll see how we've cleaned up because we used to bill out $91,000 and $85,000. We went over all this. Now we're at a more accurate number than we're going to be receiving back. Okay, so we cleaned up the
We're
membership.
billing what we actually think we're gonna collect.
Correct. And you can see year to date what we have done for admin income. Where it says rentals under tax assessments, that's $10,002. So that consists of your service club, post theater, Arbor. We've been having lots of people rent out the Arbor for weddings, which is kind of a beautiful venue. So this is just strictly admin expenses. Again, you'll see June and then year to date totals. Under marketing and advertising for the year, we've spent $26,000 roughly. And we'll be sending out our road crew probably sometime in August. But whenever Phyllis and Steve go out into the field and do these promotions, they hand out these guest cards so that we're able to track them and we collect them at the security gate and at the front office so that we can see how this is working. And we roughly have had about 43 people come through the gates, whether it be at stay at the RV park or come for the day or stay at the motel. And again, that's a small dent, but we haven't been but to maybe 7 shows. 7 shows. So we're amping up to get ready to start promoting again for hunting season and things of this nature. We'll be doing a little bit more shows. I think for marketing and advertising for the fiscal year of 2014, we budgeted $30,000. So we're going to be coming in under that. And that $26,000 also consists of the video, the wrapping of the truck, the buying of the trailer.
Right, those are one-time expenses that we'll not see again. There's probably what, 15, 20,000 in there? 15 maybe, it took to get started.
Yeah, it was about $3,500 for the wrapping of the truck. We spent $3,200 for the trailer, to buy the trailer. But yeah, there were one-time costs. Yeah. It's not moving. Oh my goodness.
Is this for 1 month?
For June. Yeah.
It's just June.
I'm from here today.
John,
What did you do?
it won't go to the next page.
No, John.
How's the arrow? I bet I can't see my arrow.
I know.
The arrow up there at the top.
I bet I can't get to it. I have a
Page
black
2,
screen.
Scroll to the top where it says page number 1 to 2.
Okay, John, but I can't.
She can't
I
see.
don't have it on my screen.
You can't scroll the screen.
Hang on. There we go. Page down.
I have a question. What did you have up there for assessments for the month of June?
$72,000.
Well, we have less than 1,400 members, correct?
No, not on the books.
You have less than 1,400 members in good standing, correct?
No, we have approximately 2,300 members on the books.
I didn't say on the books. I mean the ones that are paying.
But that's what we bill out, Mr. Bowman, is for 2,300 members, membership.
How can you count that as income if they're not paying?
You haven't received it.
If you would like to schedule an appointment with me, we can sit down and go through the mathematics, sir.
Sure, you're counting accounts receivable, correct?
Sir?
You're counting accounts receivable.
We bill out 2,300, we have 2,300 members, okay? We bill out for that amount, which should be equals $72,000. That's why we have a collections department. So it does, some people might have a bad month and not pay for the month. Then, then they'll come in and maybe get on a payment plan or come and pay. You have late charges, things happen. Under here where it says depreciation expense, again, that's not something that's physically coming out of our bank account, at $25,000. Nor the bad debt expense, which is $10,800. There's our maintenance expense. Landfill, I want to point out year to date is $20,000. That's like a lot to do with the roll-offs that we pay for. You have an exorbitant amount of people throwing out white goods, which is something we need to take into account moving forward. They're constantly getting filled up, and there needs to be some type of increase in pay. Charging members who are throwing out exorbitant amount of product.
Yeah, we had discussed that last year when the trash, or a while back, we were, to start with the brush pickup and all that stuff was gonna be on a trial basis, and then we were gonna come up with something, and we never did.
Well, we did, and we're getting better at charging, but it needs to be something that the board is gonna back to and enforce and put out there. Okay. So under admin, where you see the P&L, admin consists of obviously the office, security, and maintenance. And when we started comparing 2012, 2013, and 2014, payroll taxes have gone up a lot. Payroll did increase because we adjusted pay, because a lot of people were ungodly underpaid, like 15 years underpaid. Golf course income. So year to date, the golf course has brought in $93,513. Tournaments has almost brought in $6,000 for the year. Hopefully now, since we have a manager in place, we can start working with the golf committee and producing some more golf tournaments that's going to help the bottom line for income. And the last month, there seemed to be a lot of discussion about the golf course water. The augmenting water that's at the sewer plant, no, there's no charge for that. But we also have meters throughout the golf course, the putting green, meters on certain greens that the augmented water doesn't get to. also the water at the golf maintenance, and then we had discussed that we would probably start the fiscal year, take off the par 3 water. That averages about $700 a month. It adds to that total golf course water. So we separate it out, which between the par 3 and the 18-hole golf course, it averages about $1,500 a year in water, which you go back over a 4 to 5 year span, and that seems to be the average. It's $1,500 between both golf courses. So I think we're talking two different languages as to augmented water versus knowing that we have metered water out at the golf course as well, 18-hole.
Right, you had said, and I don't know, last month that the reason the golf course loses money is because we have to buy water from mud.
You did have to buy water in 2012 whenever there was no more sewer water, and I think that was roughly, going off of memory here, is to $1,500 extra.
Yeah, because the copies, I got some papers from mud that showed, versus what you sent us, and we can look at them later.
Right.
Whenever, I mean, there was differences, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure, both of you have bills.
Well, that was an augmented report, I think, that you got audit,
that-
which is from the recycled water. And then I gave you the bill that we get on a monthly basis for all the water for the entire fort. And then we go and break it out.
Right, you had broke it out, and there was still a big disparity between them, though.
And I'll have to point out that for the year, I mean, we're rolling at a negative $56,000 in golf total, which we're trending. We have 3 more months to go, but as it stands now, we're trending to lose only roughly $85,000, which last year was a $110,000 loss. Our income has definitely been down, but so has our expenses. Our expenses have dropped dramatically in golf. And your golf course looks really good. We continue with the cleanup. We still have a lot of things to do and enforce. But for the main part right now, we're trending to only lose roughly 85 to 90 grand this year. So we're starting to take that to the other side. Coupled with marketing of the golf course and doing some different things in the South Texas area region, I think that we can draw in some outsiders to come play. Motel's been averaging pretty good with income. We've had a lot of family reunions here, church retreats in the past four months, which has definitely helped with our income. And on P&L for motel, it's only made $24,851.12 so far. We did $33,000 in renovations in Patton Hall, so that's obviously going to throw us off this year when we look at the overall, when we do our budgets. We still have to come up with the money somewhere to finish the project. I know at some point we're going to have to get some new mattresses and box springs, which is going to be expensive. We'll do it in increments. That's something to look forward to. Those mattresses are just, they look like crime scenes. Look at the motel expenses. I want you guys to kind of look at that part. I mean, you brought in $23,000, and also we spent $17,000, and that seems to be the trend month after month, with a little bit of profit each month. I got some different ideas on that. We'll talk about those as we get to budget time. There's your RV income, which is pretty good for a summer month, almost, $19,493. Which I think last year this time it wasn't, but maybe 13,000. And again, this is where, looking forward to next year, we really hone in on RV part, because look at your total profit for the year. Your expenses are low. Income can be high, has the potential to be higher than that. we have all the paint ready to go to paint the RV park. I know we've been in discussions with the RV park manager to make the convenience store there, clean it up, make it a little more desirable to hang out in. When it comes to recreation, our income is way down. Expenses, electricity's high. Once we start comparing like 3 years total, electricity is way high across the board. And I think in anticipation for the next year, we really clean up the adult center, paint inside, put the laminate flooring in the Gorgas room. That will cost under $1,000 just to do the Gorgas room. We've already painted the Gorgas room, put a laminate floor in. I think that could help facilitate line dancing and some other things, and kind of really make the adult center the community place that it was designed to be. And that's where members can go and have the come at you will type process, as opposed to open up all your buildings that are revenue generating. But let's make the adult center something a little bit more desirable to be in.
Thank you.
And clean it up.
Thank you. The line dancing.
Total cash on hand. People, I guess I've heard through the rumors that there's a little misconception there. You know, having over half $500,000 in cash. Yes, the impound fund has been building. I think there was roughly $240,000 in the impound fund. Well, historically in the past, they depleted the impound fund to dig cells at your landfill. Roughly $160,000 last time you dug. With God willing and TCQ willing, we're going up instead of digging. It's time to phase upwards on the landfill, so we'll still maintain some of that money, not having to shed that expense. But your impound fund obviously is designed for improvements. So you guys will be able to look at that money and see where you want to take some of that money and put into some of these buildings, since we are not doing levies and whatnot to put back into those historical buildings. So the good news is you've got a roughly $240,000 in savings, in a sense. We average about, from our general fund, we average about between $240,000 to $280,000 maintaining. That's what we pay the majority of our bills out of. You got $40,000 roughly in the preservation fund. That's kind of been on hold for the past 2 months since the board's going to decide about the committee. But you got $40,000 there that's designed for your preservation of your buildings. And again, your cash flow is building. Even though it says your total loss for the year is $161,000 year to date, understand that depreciation expense is $25,000 of that every month. It's not physical cash that we're paying. Okay? Nor is the bad debt expense at $10,000. We have to put these things in there, obviously, for accounting purposes with the auditing firm and how we file our taxes. Okay? So there you go. That's it. Don't know for Jim.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Question on the RV laundry income. Is that, can anyone use them?
No,
What is
it's
that
people. It's just people are staying there. That
They have to pay for them?
that is a coin operated
Oh, okay.
machines. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that gentleman that was asking a while ago kept asking the same question over and over. I think that there was a little miscommunication there. You said you're billing out 2,300 memberships. What is your return rate on that? I think that's what he was getting at.
Right, and that takes a little bit more to dive into. It's almost impossible to sit there and say, okay, out of $72,000, and then to match up what we send out for collection letters, it's almost impossible to give you a fine number every single month. It's almost impossible to do because of the way the systems are set up.
Okay, can you say, just hit an average for the past 12 months or something like that? Yeah, I think that that's what he was going for.
I get that. We could probably come up with an average, but you have to understand, we allow 5 different times throughout the month that people pay, just from automated payments. And then you have people paying throughout the month with checks and whatnot. So your daily deposits are off every single day. There's something happening.
We have here 2,200 active memberships that are paying. There's 1,765 memberships in good standing. Then there's charter memberships and FRM memberships, and you know, it's hard to come up with it. We got about 2,000 people that pay somewhat regularly, probably 1,800 that pay on the dot.
Would it be too much to ask if you tell us how much money we receive, how much cash we receive each month?
That's what showed up there.
Yeah.
We got, because if you divide the memberships out, if you.
I don't know about divided membership, I'm asking how much actual cash that we receive each month.
70, that's what's on there, 70, 75,000, 72,000, 75,000 in cash from memberships.
$111,000.
And that's all of admin together.
That's
That's
all
it.
income together.
We got 70-some thousand in membership dues, and then 30,000 in other things.
People that haven't paid for 10 years. Can't you tell us actually how much cash we take in there?
Yeah, 70, what was up there, 72, 73,000.
Okay, well, I'd like to see it on the printout for the members.
I would too.
This has nothing to do with that.
Right
Could
here.
we raise the screen so that the thermostat can accurately measure the temperature in the room?
Is it too hot?
It is warm in here.
Should be hot.
Thermostat's behind the screen.
Why do we still have a property tax?
Because that's how they want us to break it out, even though we paid it full in November
Okay,
for the.
so we're amortizing it monthly?
Exactly.
Okay. How come we didn't have one last month? It didn't show one last month.
It did. It didn't in your printout, but it is. Whatever, so, well, let's just get into all that later.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, it showed the month before and then this month, but last month
Yeah,
it
and
showed,
that's been
didn't show
caught
that.
and it got put in.
Okay, yeah.
In answer to the gentleman's question back here, it would appear from this sheet, if you just look at the total income, they call it gross profit, I call it gross income, I'm sure is what it is. If you add that up, sir, you'll come up with around 161, 162,000. That would be your total income for the month. And of course, out of that comes all the expenses. And I would assume that you, maybe I shouldn't assume, but it seemed part of your financial statement, by the way, it was a pleasure to see some of those details, thank you. But it said bad debts, $10,000. I would kind of guess that maybe that's applied to that 72,000 you bill, and if that's not it, that's something different, huh?
No, because we've got 30-some hundred. We have to put some reserve because we're still carrying them as people that may pay. We have to carry some of that money in reserve in case they don't.
Okay.
The membership dues are around 70,000 plus per month, and they historically have been that way. Between 70 and 80,000 is what we collect every month off membership dues. And the problem is we're losing money quite a little bit, and it's definitely off our budget numbers a lot.
Yes, because they based it off of.
We'll have to do a lot different than that in the future to come up with, because we really don't know how much money where we're going to end up at the end of the year.
Roby, can I ask one question? I really appreciate this Lost Moors Corporation profit and loss on here. I see it for the month of June. Do we have any idea what it is year to date?
It's about a negative $26,000. a first-year startup company.
And I don't think anybody, I'm not in favor of the restaurant losing money, but I never thought it was gonna make money to start with.
Well, we bought a lot of things in the beginning. We've changed it, like I said, in 1 year, for only losing $26,000. Not bad.
Not if you say it fast. I just never thought the restaurant would be a big moneymaker. I just, it's gonna take time to make it, to do it, to generate revenue.
But keep this in mind, we budgeted for we spent $20,000, a little under $20,000 for startup. So that has to all come out and get depreciated and whatnot. So, and again, it's changed, and we have a new menu. We actually have a concept now. We actually have a branding and trying to create an atmosphere. And it's all up to you if you guys want a restaurant or not. Either you go to it or you don't. So,
Roby, I don't think any restaurant is making it big right now. It's
Kind of a problem.
I think Brackettville restaurants are struggling too. I've heard, but I haven't got any proof.
Yeah.
Any other?
Yes, I have a question. I'm not sure if it's be at this time, but regarding Dickman Hall, what would it take to open it up?
Somebody to win the lottery?
Yeah.
It's-
And I used to work there. I was a waitress in the 70s, when Matt Nelson was here. So it was really nice to have. It's a beautiful building, and it would be nice, even if it was just for coffee or breakfast or something. But what would it take? How could we find out what the cost would be to,
Did
or
you
what
have
is
a
needed,
figure on
and
that?
what, just to give us an answer on that. 200.
It's something we're trying to work on and have been. We need to get how much of it to open. The one thing, the utilities in it pretty much have to be done to start with. The heating and cooling bill is what's killing it to start with. I mean, it just takes so much. It's like the adult center. It takes so much just to heat or cool the building. And that's a big cost that, keeps you from making money on it there. It needs to be looked at hard and try to figure out where we can do something on it. It's something that won't happen overnight, but hopefully it will
Yes,
happen.
sir. But we could start somewhere. I'd be happy to serve on a committee, but I'd have to find out if really interested in trying to do something. Thank you.
If nobody's got anything else, we'll go to the committee and organization reports. The architectural committee?
The architect committee meets every Tuesday at 9 o'clock here in the boardroom, and want to thank Bill Herman for attending as a board member. Since our last meeting, we have issued permits and approval for the removal of a manufactured home, repair of existing rock to the front of the house, repair brick, painted houses and storage units, the installation of amateur radio antennas, 2 of those on the fort, and 1 unit has had their concrete recapped. We sent out 2 letters of expired extensions. Now, the original permits are for 6 months, and if the original repairs are not done, you do need to apply for another extension, and those are free, and so you'll have up to a year to complete your repairs, and after that, then we send out other letters. So that's that.
Not that you may be aware of it or not, but has anything come up about that house in the red house in 14?
Yeah.
Is it
Yes, that was,
moving forward or something on
It's
it?
administrative.
And how about the guy with the airplane hanger out there in the hole, what finally got
It
filled
got
in?
covered up, yes.
But is that still
it's for sale.
It's for sale.
There's a sign on it for sale.
the golf committee?
Wait a minute, can I just interject one thing on this? I think that people need to know that when you do any repair work on your property, any kind of repair work, you need to apply for a permit. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay for it, because if you're repairing in like kind, that's maintenance. But it would be nice as a paper trail to have permits on file so that we, obviously a paper trail. Thank you.
The golf committee?
I'll hold it out here. I volunteered to give the golf committee report. They met Wednesday, July 9th at 1 o'clock. We discussed a number of things to do with the golf course, and as we usually do every month, we give Jody a list of items that the golf committee would like to see maintenance take care of. We're also going to start selling gift certificates. They're available in the pro shop now, so if you want to buy a round of golf with or without a cart for a birthday present or anniversary present or a friend, whatever, we're going to have those available. The October 1st, 2014 golf rates are available in the pro shop now, so you'll know what you'll be paying after the new fiscal year starts. The committee's also working on several ideas for specials to bring additional players to the course. We talked about having a military law enforcement and first responder day on Fridays where they get their cart for free, and we're still kind of working on what we want to do with that. We're also thinking of having hot deals during the summer where in the afternoon during the hottest part of the day when people don't want to play, we'll give them bargain price to kind of try and bring them onto the course. Okay, this is actually done at a lot of the resort courses during the hot Texas summer. We're also talking about having more Monday work days to take care of projects that the volunteers can do. The golf committee also created a Facebook page to announce news, tournaments, tournament results, thanks to Debbie Isaacs who set that up, and we're working on linking that Facebook page to the Fort's website so people can go straight there. The next major tournament, although we may have some smaller ones before then, is the Happy Cervantes Memorial Tournament. The money generated by that is turned back into the golf course for special projects. That's how we did some of the sod work on 10 and 1. So that tournament is September 12th with the registration night, and then the tournament's out 13th and 14th. So those registration flyers should be out pretty soon for those who are interested.
Thank you. And I think there was some comments, the guys that played from the Air Force Base were pretty excited about the golf course, and I think there was some talk about inviting the base commander over to see it and maybe giving him a whirlwind tour and something special for him so that when he gets here he broadcasts the word.
At the last, we have a tournament at the last Saturday of every month, and the last end of the month tournament, 4 gentlemen from the Air Force Base showed up. One of them came back because he had played the course, really thought it was in excellent condition, and brought 3 of his buddies back. And we will probably see them now from now on if they're, they're Air Force, assuming they're still there at those tournaments. And they have indicated that they would be bringing some of their friends over. And in fact, I did see them here within the last couple of weeks out on the course. So we'll talk to them about that. They did say that our course was in excellent condition compared to the base course. Now, I've never been out there, so I don't know. But we are getting some interest. We get a lot of interest from Del Rio. Now we're trying to get some of the other cities in our general area to also come as players. We're getting there.
Community Council?
Community Council, Allison isn't able to be here again this week, and she asked me to read what she has prepared. And I asked Myrna if she'd rather, and she said no.
Read enough already.
Okay. Okay, this is Allison's report. She sent it to me late last night. I haven't read it yet. I just printed it this morning. Fort Clark Springs Community Council Board of Directors report for July 2014. FCSA met last Saturday, July 12th. 19 members were present, and we would like to thank Bill Herman and Roby Robeson for coming to the meeting. The membership vote to move forward with a partnership between FCSA and FCSCC for Fort Clark Days after IRS concerns of working with a non-501c3 were satisfactorily addressed. We will work on writing up the memorandum of agreement so everyone is clear about expectations of the group. Going forward, it is important to remember all funds raised using FCSCC 501c3 status need to be deposited into FCSCC Fort Clark Days checking account and must be used according to FCSCC bylaws, or we would be in danger of losing our 501c3 status. Specifically, net funds are to be used for building restoration and repair or education of our youth and general public in the history of Southwest Texas. We also wanted to make sure everyone understands the cost to feed, house, and bring the living historians to the festival is about $5,000. Having the living historians at the Fort Clark Days event fulfills 4 of 7 purposes of Community Council. According to our 501c3 status, funds we donated to the fort for building restoration and repair can be used only for that purpose. Therefore, if the association's building restoration and repair account were to be closed and funds distributed to any other account, our last year's donation of $8,936.40, which has not yet been spent, would need to be returned to our Fort Clark Days account so we can distribute it as needed for restoration and repair. Members raised several concerns we would like to see addressed by the board and Director of Operations. Number 1, move one of the 2 pool tables from the 2nd floor of the Adult Center to the 1st floor. There are several members with limited mobility who play pool at the Adult Center, and this would make it much easier for them. In addition, there are air conditioning issues on the 2nd floor. Number 2, reactivation of a recreation committee and/or community get-together activities such as potlucks, fish fries, etc. The purpose of such activities would be for community building and not fundraising. Number 3, more than once a month e-newsletter. Going back to weekly would be ideal. Number 4, littering of FCSA grounds is covered under Section 24 of the Rules and Regulations. We want to encourage members to help maintenance by picking up litter when they see it and report those littering to security. Number 5, loud and offensive music that disturbs the peace and comfort of others is covered under Section 15 of the Rules and Regulations. Members and guests should not feel compelled to leave the swim park because others are playing music loudly and with inappropriate lyrics. Number 6, golf cart driving regulations are covered under Section VC1. Golf cart operators must have a current driver's license or be accompanied by a licensed driver with immediate access to the controls. Number 7, we encourage all membership to call security when they see or experience an infraction of rules and regulations. We want to encourage FCSA to better implement assessments and levies for infraction of the above rules according to Board Resolution 5-01. The following items were also discussed but do not require action by the board. Number 1, concern over a fence at Mud and the appearance of people being able to sneak over the top into the pool area. This could be a litigation concern should someone get hurt. Maintenance is constantly working on repairing the fence and/or finding a better solution. Number 2, concern over the drain that allows water to flow from Bracketville drainage ditch into the Lost Moors Creek not having a grate. Also, unauthorized dams being built on the creek. Members are encouraged to report those creating the dams when they observe it being done. Number 3, concern over bingo's hot ball game being illegal, according to the State Bingo Commission. This is being researched by Secretary Forrester. Report from our representative to the Historical Building Restoration and Repair Committee reported that no meetings have been held for a while due to questions about the committee. There is work that needs to be done and bids are needed, but no action taken yet. Allison reminded our representative that FCSCC still has funds for historical building restoration and repair. We would like to encourage getting bids so we can distribute funds as needed. Our next meeting is August 9th, and we encourage everyone to attend as we are planning for the 2015 Fort Clark Days event.
One thing I'd like to, what's the chances of getting the pool table moved downstairs for them?
At the adult center?
Yeah.
The thing is where to put it. I mean, because you got bridge tables in several of the rooms downstairs, and it's not like.
Can we look at it and see if we can somewhere?
We have looked at it. Maybe we can probably put it in the Gorgas room, but it's going to take all my guys to move that heavy thing.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to move it or suggest,
Yeah.
just if we can we, or if there's a spot, I don't know where it'll fit, or if it'll fit, if there's some ability and we can do it without tearing the walls down.
It would have to go into the Gorgas room, and it's like I said, it's gonna be a little scary to do. I thought about maybe moving one of the pool tables from the teen center over instead of having to come down those stairs. So,
And then I'd like to ask Matt about the noise thing. Isn't there, I talked to you one time about that, wasn't there a decibel requirement or something we went over?
That's what, the state law has a decimal requirement, the fourth doesn't. But where you gonna get into some, issues with that? It hasn't changed over the years. So it's like, if there's loud noise, you may know that, you may say it's loud, I may say it's not loud. So you're gonna get into that kind of a deal. But, as far as wording in a song or something like that, that is inappropriate, we can definitely deal with that. Any loud noise complaints that we go to, basically what we do is ask that person to turn it down, because we do have a complaint. We will not tell anybody who a complainant is, but we will ask them to turn it down. Now, there is another issue that's going on down at the swing park. When you have parties down at the pavilion, you have a DJ down there. And that facility is rented out. So how you want to deal with that is going to be strictly up to y'all. You just tell me what you want to do and I'll enforce it.
Solve all the problems easily? I don't know, can you work with Jody on, I don't know, bring something to us on how we maybe there's nothing we can do.
There is stuff that we can do depending on, and I'll talk to Jody and we'll try to bring something to you this next meeting.
Thank you. Garland, you had a...
Well, you forgot the preservation committee.
I know Bill told me that, it's bifocals, I think.
Anyway, right now we're in limbo. You guys got the issue on the board agenda, and we got $43,000. We got projects in waiting that we have already went around and inspected. We haven't sent out any bids. I've been jumping on how come I didn't, because when I found out that the resolution that authorized the Restoration and Repair Committee had expired, I said, we're not going to send out anything because we're not going to be here when I took the matter to the board, and I would appreciate it if it got settled today.
We'll address it. Yes, ma'am.
As far as the monies from the community councils that have gone to the preservation committee, the state mandates that these monies be spent within a year. So if you don't okay things, we're going to be in trouble.
Okay. Recycling.
We're still accepting junk, recyclable junk. We have a special this next week. If you bring it over, we'll let you bring it in for free. No. No, seriously, we're it's working well. We've already got a start on our next load to go out. We'd appreciate if you have the time when you bring over cans or milk jugs, or I guess mostly the cleaning all stuff, what do you call that stuff?
Plastic.
Yeah, good idea, good work. Kind of squash it down a little bit, it helps.
Squash it a lot.
And we still can use some volunteers. We need some people to help. Again, like I said last time, after the hours, we need people who can learn to drive the forklift and make boxes and shift them around and things like that. But other than that, keep the stuff coming, folks.
Thank you.
Back up on the golf field. The man that said he talked about Lewis McCoy from the base, he contacted me, and Colonel Hastings, the commanding officer, is the one that wants to come over and play golf. Told him to let me know when he wants to come, crowd for him. I asked him to come on today. The restaurant's open, so we can eat afterwards, have a few drinks, show him the whole atmosphere. Plus, I sent him a registration form for the next tournament in September. And Lewis is posting on the base saying he can get played 8 to 15 teams come to the tournament. So they have nice courts, but ours is nice. It can't be much nicer. And we got a chance to get all those people to come over and spend time.
Thank you.
There's actually the entry blanket and a collection that will come in for that time. Those order is done.
Yeah, it's the form.
I didn't have time to copy it this morning, I'm sorry.
Okay. The next item is discussion and approval, document that gives the DO power to sell property to $25,000 rescinded. We need a motion and a second.
I would make a motion that we rescind the current authority of the DO and go back to the ones that we had several years ago. I think
It's a different issue he's talking
is that the difference?
It's different.
Oh, this is the, right. First off, I'd like to see the resolution that authorizes.
It's in here.
We need a motion and a second to discuss it.
I make a motion, we rescind the power of the DO to sell property up to $25,000.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
So any discussion on this?
How is this different from the title requirements that we talked about last time?
The title requirements, there was a trustee, that was for handling foreclosures. This is to sell property.
This is for the, remember Vanek was here last time explaining, it's your, we have it right here in your
No, I was just
packet.
I was just looking for it.
It was for, it's assigned for the title company. And it's only for if there was a transfer that's a member attached to that transfer. I can't go sell, it could be Roby, because it says president or DO. They can sign the piece of paper for the title companies. I can't sell anything that has not, or just transfer. It's a transfer, it's not me selling.
So again, my question is, how is this different from what we talked about last meeting?
It's not.
It's not.
Okay.
Well,
Sometimes my mind
why do we
doesn't
have two
function.
resolutions on it then? Why did we appoint her as a trustee and have this done?
This was done with Lee.
Well, it appears to be done illegally. Well, there was no notice, no resolution number affected to it, and it was never, it's not in the minutes anywhere.
It is in the minutes, it was in the exec session.
Roby, this statement of authority to transfer of property is for signature on those documents. It gives certain people, all of us on the board, the DO, and the president of the board, authority to sign the transfer document. It doesn't give anybody the authority to sell property. If it did, that means that you, as board president, would have the authority to sell property on the fort, which you do not. So, because it says right here, it's for the president or the serving director of operations to act the association in a lawful way with respect to transfer the association's interest described above and held in the name of the association. Does that give, that doesn't give you the right to sell property any more than it does to give the DO, whether it's Jody or anybody else. It's, the document was created, and yes, we were there at the time, and so were you, and so were you, and so was B. When this was created, it was simply to designate for the title companies who is authorized to sign the documents to transfer. That's all this is. It doesn't
What
give anybody.
I'm reading here is, at a meeting of the Board of Directors of Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., the corporation, the Texas Nonprofit Corporation, duly called and held on Saturday, March 30th, 2013, at which the quorum was present, and acted throughout the Board of Directors unanimously adopted the following resolution. Now, I'm going to tell you, nothing like that happened on March 30th.
That was the date of the annual meeting.
That was the day of the annual meeting. There was no damn meeting to approve this.
This is the 22nd of April, 2013. Are we looking at the same thing?
I don't know, I'm reading what this says.
Go ahead.
Just as a point of information, your bylaws resolution and amendment 04-06 prohibits the DO from selling any property over $1,000.
It wasn't selling, it's a transfer.
I know, I'm pointing out they're concerned about selling, but you have an amendment that prohibits her from selling.
Right, but the certificate of resolution to sell real property.
With membership attached to it, it's a transfer. I looked in your packet, Brianna provided.
There's in your packet, it's a title company requirement. Right here, it's in your packet.
What did we do prior to doing this?
That's what you did do. That's what they did. Ron Stewart was we took the exact same thing that Ron Stewart and that current board did, and that, so to transfer, to sign over membership attached property.
Previous to Ron Stewart, they had not done any foreclosure. Previous to Ron Stewart, when Ron Stewart was here, and Bill Hahn and whoever else was on that board at that time, was the first foreclosure that had been done in many, many, many years. And they made Ron Stewart the person that could sign off or even go to the courthouse to do the foreclosure.
But foreclosure is not selling or transferring.
But once you buy those properties and you get them in, how are you going to?
Then right, that's a different, the making her the trustee is different than this document.
Right.
Because as the trustee, you're allowed to go to the courthouse and exercise the liens and all that the fort is filing.
That's
a lawyer each time.
Right.
This is different, and on this
Right,
additional.
that's what I was saying. This is not the same, as you told Myrna before, this is the same documents. They're not. They're two completely different documents.
Right. And she corrected me. But on this additional requirements from the title company, it says on number 12, the company requires a certified copy of a resolution of Board of Directors, Fort Clark Springs, a corporation authorizing the current transaction and naming the officers who are designated to execute the necessary documents. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't give anybody, doesn't give Roby the authorization to sell property. It doesn't give the DO the authorization to sell the property either. It's
Roby.
simply who may sign those documents for the title company.
As I read what was filed with the county, it may just be that we need to rewrite it and make it more, because
I would agree.
what we agreed on last meeting was appropriate, and maybe the way this is written just makes it seem like we're selling property as opposed to foreclosing and things like that.
I would agree that it's written, if we need it, it's written incorrectly for what we need.
Roby, I've got a copy of that. It's filed in the courthouse, and it says what it means what it says. And no matter what you say you can or can't do, it says what you can do.
Right.
And that's it.
This says you can sell it.
No matter what you do, whether it's wrong or right.
But where's the copy of the resolution? It has the number on it. You know?
It's a legal document. Doesn't say anything about anything else except real property.
Where's the resolution number?
It's to grants for the association's interest in the property described above.
Okay, that's what I have.
I mean,
And we read it last time. There's nothing in here that gives any. There's nothing in here that says the authority to sell is in here anywhere. Doesn't say anything about selling property in this document.
and it takes at least two
It says,
signatures.
yeah.
Read the bottom part, 2 signatures, president and the DO.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm asking for is to see a copy of the resolution where they have a number stamped on it.
Where the board voted to do it. And it takes 2 signatures if it's over $25,000.
That's true.
Up to $25,000, any one individual can do it.
Once
And
again,
then
I don't mind that the property got sold, I guess the fourth repossessed it, and we sold it to someone, is that right?
That wasn't that, that's not what this was for, it's actually a transfer, we didn't even have property. I just signed over I have to go back to go back to the meeting, I'll pull the meeting, we came out of exec session, and Lee said that you guys voted to sign this in exec session.
I can't find it in the notes.
It's in the video.
I didn't see it in the video.
I don't care who signed, it's just.
Is there a resolution with the number stamped on it?
Start repossessing homes, foreclosing on homes, and then we put them up for sale to repossess or get our money back, so to speak. And in most cases, we made a profit. One of the board of directors, I think the president of the board and the DO had to sign. It wasn't anybody had sole right. A board member of the director of operations had to sign it.
Somebody has to sign as seller
I mean, that's
on
where it
a
was.
deed. It does have to sign that way. I agree with Myrna, this is not worded correctly, and there's no supporting documentation everywhere for it. And in the bylaws, the director of operations does have power to transfer memberships. So why is this?
So you're talking about foreclosure, you're talking about due to assessments not being paid? Is it for property taxes, or how are y'all able to foreclose on property on Fort?
All of the above.
Really, the only way we can foreclose is just assessments.
Yes, because property taxes would be
Right.
non-barter.
Right.
So when you foreclose, you're talking about assessments only then?
Right. It would be assessments and or fines.
Only?
Right.
Sandy, it seemed to me I was pretty quick, but when you read the title company's requirement, it sounded like they said they required a resolution of the board of directors approving the sale of each individual one. I may have misheard you, but that's kind of how
I was just reading it from the,
which would mean you'd have to bring a sale to the board of directors and have them approve it.
okay. Certificate of resolution to sell real property, April 5th, 2013. For Clark Springs Association, Inc., Texas Nonprofit Corporation. A date of adoption, March 30th, 2013. At a meeting of the Board of Directors of Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., the corporation, a Texas nonprofit corporation duly called and held on Saturday, March 30th, 2013, at which a quorum was present and acted throughout. The Board of Directors unanimously adopted the following resolution, which has not been modified or rescinded. Resolved that the nonprofit corporation execute and deliver to Kelly J. Houghton a deed conveying the property owned by said nonprofit corporation described as follows. This is...
No, I'm saying I'm talking about the letter from the title
Okay, the
company.
title company, number 12. The company requires a certified copy of resolution of the Board of Directors of Fort Clark Springs Association and Corporation authorizing the current transaction and naming the officers who are designated to execute the necessary documents.
It says the current transaction, they require that resolution from the board for that current transaction. In my experience, you normally need that where I came from, the transfer title.
Excuse me here,
We have a homestead. Our property is our homestead. Who can foreclose on that? Can the foreclose on that for lack of payment?
that depends if we're an HOA or not.
No, ask her. She says no.
I have a question.
They can put a lien on it. They can't.
Yes, they can.
They can put a lien on it.
If we're an HOA, I think.
Texas state law exempts an HOA from the protection of a homestead. They can foreclose.
Okay, I would like to see the rules and corporations of the home, if we are a homeowners association, I would like you to publicize the document that says we are registered in the state of Texas as a homeowners association.
And we need to find that, yes, I'd like to see it too.
I have it in my office.
Okay.
If you want to get on top of it, I have it in my office.
No.
Because the question I have, if they're current on their property taxes, but they're in arrears on their assessments, can you not penalize them or take services away or restrict them from?
We can, but our bylaws say that if they're,
I didn't know how y'all could foreclose on someone who's current on their property taxes, but not on their.
if they're behind on their assessments, we have a mandatory obligation to foreclose on them.
And foreclose would mean sell,
Take their, right, foreclose their property and,
even though they're current on the, oh.
right, because they owe us a debt. It'd be like they're current on their property taxes, but they haven't paid the bank.
You have to offer them a payment plan, though.
Right.
And we do.
Yes.
I
And
pulled that off of the documentation the other day on a closing with the title company pulls out. That document right there goes out to everybody that buys property on this fort. If you'll read it, and it sets the date and the time that it become effective.
It's been accepted that we belong to a homeowners association.
I'm just going by that. It says we are a homeowners association, and it was done at a meeting on certain time in 2002.
And it's registered in
And
the
it is
state.
registered.
It's
Well, I'm
registered
not-
in the state of Texas as a homeowners association.
yeah, but this doesn't say anything about what it talks about homeowners association, not who's signing the property.
No, he's asking if we're a homeowners association.
Well, and
That's the
that's
documentation.
not what we're actually talking about right now. I mean, that
Discussion is number 8.
There you go.
This is getting out of.
We're getting tangential.
My main concern is who has the right to foreclose on my property.
anybody that's owed money on it.
They can foreclose on anybody.
I would assume that if you don't pay your bills, whoever you owe that money to could put a lien against it and in the end foreclose. I don't know
I
that.
would think they could
No.
follow mechanics now.
No, not because it's his homestead. If he owes the grocer, the butcher, the candlestick maker money and doesn't pay him, and they file a lien on his homestead, that lien can hang there, but they can't foreclose on it.
Yes.
But HOAs in Texas
Can
are
foreclose.
exempt from that protection of the homestead law. So if you do not pay your assessments to the association, and they file a lien, then they can foreclose on your homestead, but they have to offer you a payment
I
plan.
realize that's why they want to say we're a homeowners association,
That-
but I'd like to see proof that we are, that
Okay,
registered
that,
with
that,
the state.
that's another argument.
That's
I think
right,
that
that's
would answer your question.
Come on.
Thank you for the information.
Foreclosed, and we'll have that.
I think the confusion is in the terminology. You're talking about transferring membership. Maybe you ought to define that, and if it doesn't involve selling anything, why is there a dollar amount in the resolution? I think that's where the confusion is.
Right, I think that, like Marta said, this is worded incorrectly. Somebody has to sign if you have a deed to a property, somebody has to sign that they're agreeing to sell it. If it's an individual homeowner or a homeowners association, somebody does have to have the authority to sell the property. I would agree with that. We have to have that. However, I don't think this is written correctly, and I don't think that it was done in meetings, and there's no records of it anywhere that I can find. And before we do anything else with it,
Roby?
other than,
Excuse me. Rather than worry about that, let's update it and be more specific and refile it with the county.
that would be fine. I would like to rescind this because this does not do what I think we need done. And I don't have any,
Well, I don't think you can rescind it now because if there's, what are you gonna do if there's transactions or deals being done right now? What are you gonna do?
they'll
I
have to
don't-
bring it before the board and
If she-
sign it.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Okay.
I think that this can be corrected by us, 1 or 2 sentences added to this to clarify it, that the intent is not to give authority to board president, DO, or any board member to sell property on the fort.
Well, no, that's,
We can add that to that, but in the meantime, I think Bill's point is a good one. We can rescind it the day that we vote to approve the new one, but if you rescind this now, and we have things in action, we have nobody to go over and sign those documents because nobody has authority to do so.
right, I don't want to hold up the sale of any property on a fort.
Right, so you can't rescind it.
The other thing is, this other certificate of resolution to sell real property appears to be a completely different,
That's why I stopped reading it. It refers to one specific property.
and I don't think that was ever done, I don't want to bring up the property or the individual, but that's the one B brought up. This was supposed to have been voted on at a quorum March 30th, and that was the day of the annual meeting,
What year, March 30th?
2013.
This is 14.
2014.
That was last year.
Right.
There was an annual meeting.
There
last
was
year.
an annual meeting in 2013.
Right, this says this resolution was approved by the Board of Directors on Saturday, March 30th, 2013. Well, on March.
A year ago.
That was
Right,
a year ago.
that's correct. But I don't remember, there's nothing in the notes for the annual meeting that says we did this. We had an annual meeting, presented some plaques, everybody rubbed each other's head and said we were going to do a good job and went and ate brisket.
But you had a
meeting.
You had a meeting after that.
Afterwards, in which
That we elected officers. But it says here, a quorum was present and acted throughout. The Board of Directors unanimously adopted the following resolution, which was to sell this property to an individual for a given amount. We did not do that.
You did. You were in it.
At the
That's
annual
it.
meeting?
It was written. It was written, and you look at the date of sign, April 10th. April 10th.
April 10th, yeah.
Okay, that's when it was signed. That's when you guys were present. Lee signed it, and Brianna was in exec session. She can attest that she was there with all 5 of you. Because she notarized it. It's on the notary book.
I see that, it's notarized here.
And it was an exec session. She was there. It was the only exec session she's ever participated in, and all 5 of you were there.
But March 30th, we did not have a,
That's when the document was written.
This is April.
this said it,
I will find it on video. Okay?
yeah.
This is April 22nd.
Let's move on to
This
this
is-
document.
Very simple, just produce the minutes for you.
Right, I'd like to see all this stuff and see where we did that, because I don't remember any of that ever happening. None of this. This document Lee signed on the 22nd, or she notarized on the 22nd, it says that we passed a resolution to do this, and I don't know that we ever did.
I can assure you, you were there. And I can assure you there were witnesses to attest that you guys were there. I would go under oath and attest to it.
Can you get a copy of the resolution as a number statement?
One more time, I'd like to withdraw my second and make a motion. A second to this one, I don't know how you do that. Robert's Rules of Order have gone by the wayside. I think our motion should be to clean this up and to refile the document so that it says what we want it to say and is not confused to mean selling a property, okay?
Yeah.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
I'm not sure what that motion read, but good luck, Monique.
I don't know how we'll do that.
Maybe the whole thing should be tabled until we can sit down.
Because he made a motion.
There's
You have a
absolutely.
motion on the floor.
And there's a
We have
second
two
to it.
motions on
As
the
the
floor.
second, I will clarify the motion. What Myrna is saying is that we take this piece of paper, we clean it up so it reads and is not confusing, and then we refile it. And that's the motion I seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor? Well, all opposed?
You voted twice.
Well, I pulled my hand down the first time. Sorry about that. Because I would like to rescind this one and force us to do the other one quickly. But it does need cleaned up and it needs to say exactly what we want.
Well,
You want
it's
a
voted to
date?
do what the
You want a
motion says,
date
so
in
let's
that
go on.
motion? Is that what you want?
Next
You want
topic.
a date in that motion?
No, it'll be fine like it is. I'm sure we'll work on it hardly, diligently.
We will have it by the next meeting.
The next item is create an executive committee with Dee and Myrna to appoint an ad hoc committees as needed. And the executive committee would appoint a chair and appoint all the ad hoc committees. To create an executive committee to appoint ad hoc committees as needed.
Okay, I'd like to start.
We need a motion and a second.
Motion for,
To discuss and approve.
I think we just need a motion. And since I'm in it there, I don't know if I can make that motion.
Yeah.
You need a motion to have this
Discuss.
executive committee?
To create an executive committee.
Okay. I will make the motion to create the executive committee to appoint ad hoc committees only, which I'll remind everybody is committees that come together for a certain purpose and that disband as soon as that purpose is met, preferably within a month. Doesn't go on and on and on.
We have a second? We have a motion and a second. Okay, we want to create executive committees to look at the golf course, finances, recreation, whatever committee the executive committee would deem necessary. They could form a committee to report to them, to report to the board. If we wanted a committee to look at the golf course and bring to the board, what do we need to do? Do we need to plant more grass? Do we need to have more sodas? Do we need to raise more dues? Get more members? How are we going to do it? That's what they would explore, the ad hoc committee would explore and bring back to the executive committee, which would then come to the board.
I'd like to get away from the golf, though, because there is a golf committee, and if they're not doing their job, we need to tell them that, but right now it looks good to me.
No, and that would be...
So get away from golf, and I have a committee in mind, so I'd like to even do this right now. Dan and a group of people worked very diligently to work on it would be Article 4, Section 3 on elections. And I'd like him and I'd like to work with them to clean up what they've done so far, to make it, as nearly as we can tell, meet the qualifications that are required by 209, and get it ready to send to the legal people for final approval. Because I think this needs to be done right away, and that's what Dan was working toward. So that's my example of an ad hoc committee.
Right, it would be up to you guys to create whatever ad hoc committees you wanted.
Right.
I just did if this is approved.
Well, the primary issue is to first take a vote on whether we need an executive committee and who should be on that committee, before we get into various different ad hoc committees.
I was giving you an example.
Right, if we create an executive committee, they would then choose which ad hoc committees they would want. That would be my... So the board is not directing them what to do, they decide on their own what to do. Garland?
So who's gonna be on this ad hoc committee? I mean, you're talking about finances and personnel, and all those are sensitive issues. They come under state and federal regulations, especially for personnel, and the same thing with finances. And so who are you gonna put on this ad hoc committee? It just can't be John Doe member, because that's information that has to be requested under the Public Information Act, a lot of this stuff under finances and stuff.
Well, anybody who's appointed to one of these committees, they have a fiduciary responsibility, you know, that they have to maintain, just like they were on the board of directors.
Well, personally, I think that's opened up a can of worms.
I'd like to respond, Garland, because Roby was giving examples. You know, when you're trying to come up with the names of ad hoc committees, these things come to mind. But as I gave you an example right now, we need this ad hoc committee to work on that particular bylaw to get it changed in time for the election process to go through. And rather than worry about what these examples are, let's wait until we talk about what the committees are and what they need to do. Don't focus on these particular examples.
Anything else?
What's the difference between your ad hoc committee and a planning committee that you dissolve?
They could be the same thing.
That's, why don't you go back and do your planning committee? Which is
Well, the planning committee would, and I'm just, if I was planning, I'd have to plan for something, I don't know what. You know, the future of the fort, the future of the swimming pool, the future of whatever. But the ad hoc committee could be directed to do a given function. It wouldn't necessarily be planning, it could be planning. But it could say, okay, we want to create an ad hoc committee to figure out how to fix the rock wall down here that's fell over. That would be their only function, and they would have to do that and bring it back to us, and that would be it.
But you just got through saying before that they would be on a standalone basis they would be the one to decide what they were going to do. Now you just you're telling me that you were going to tell them what to do.
No, the executive committee will tell them what to do.
Who's the executive committee?
We haven't decided that yet. That's what this motion is about.
Okay.
The way I read this motion, it says that, create an executive committee, B and Myrna, to appoint ad hoc committees as needed. It sounds like to me that B and Myrna is the ad hoc committee.
That was my intent when I sent it in. It didn't necessarily all be on there. It doesn't have to be B and Myrna. It has to be who the board decides. I would move that B and Myrna do it, but the board may decide somebody else.
And the way it's stated that if you vote on it, you're voting B and Myrna in as the ad hoc committee, and then they're going to appoint all of the others.
This is a way to get more people involved or more of a legal status.
And membership input.
An ad hoc committee is for one specific purpose. And if you have a purpose that you need to have one ad hoc committee, then as a board, why don't you so designate for that particular purpose? Rather, this is so general, it's like saying they can have the authority to do anything. And go from this committee to that committee to the, you already have your committees.
No, those are just examples.
No, I mean, you have your architectural and golf and
Okay, yeah.
et cetera. So if golf has a problem, then you come to an ad hoc committee to address that particular problem, whether it be water on the golf course or whatever, but one problem. And when that problem is resolved, then the committee is done.
Right.
And you don't need special board action to pass something, pass an ad hoc committee. You're already a board, so you can form an ad hoc committee as a board automatically. You only need two people having the power to form ad hoc committees at will, so to speak. You already got a board. You're already an executive committee. You're a board.
How are you going to recruit the members for these ad hoc committees? I mean, are you just going to sentence people to it? And, I think, maybe you could say that the executive committee comes back to the board. We did this once before, with their suggestions for the various committees, and then the board approve those committees if there's one or two or whatever there is, so that the whole board can do it. But I think to have the whole board try to appoint ad hoc committees, you've got to talk to people and say, are you willing to serve on this? Do you have any expertise? Et cetera, et cetera. And that's what the function of your executive committee would be.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, if I were going to do something at the golf club, which I wouldn't probably, but if I did, I'd go to people like Debbie Isaacs and different people who play golf all the time and get their input into it. And then you appoint one of them and then they pick members. We don't pick them all.
Right now, as it sets up with each committee that we've got, and more than likely the committee has been appointed by the board, you also have a board member that sits in on those committees. Then if there's a problem that board member sees, then you can do something about it. But why have them standing out there when you don't know what you're going to do?
Yeah, well, these committees, I mean, you'll give reports of how many rounds of golf, or how much this, or how much that's going on. But these aren't addressed to solving any problems.
Please get away from golf. Please get away from golf.
I think Dan makes a very nice point. I think that the goal here, if we're going to do this, would be to vote yes or no to create an executive committee. Let them take a look at specific issues that need to be addressed, and then make recommendations back to the board about what committees they feel would be helpful to address certain issues on the board. And then the board can look at those and decide which of those committees we agree, ad hoc committees, and then set a specific time limit. These are for 30 days or 60 days, and after that the committee is dissolved. That way we allow the executive committee to come up with some ideas on issues they want addressed by an ad hoc committee, and then the board can then determine which of those committees are actually necessary, without having to go through all that. And then perhaps they'll come up with only one thing that needs to be addressed by an ad hoc committee. So I think Dan Sullivan drilled that down nicely. If that's,
Yes.
Did I interpret it correctly?
Yes.
All right.
May I get, this sounds like there'd be all these ad hoc committees roaming around out there. This is on a need basis only. For instance, as I said, this Article 4, Section 3 on the elections needs to be done right away. And there are people that have already done some work on it and should continue. That makes sense. I would like to work with them so that we can get it to make sense. You know, I think, you know, when you put something together by a committee, you kind of get things jumbled. So right now, they've given us all this background and how they want to change it. So that's my example, and that's the one I would like to create immediately.
Recreation seems to be a big thing with community council and the community right now. But I can guarantee you, I've been on that recreation committee, and you work tireless hours on that committee. And then you get beat down because you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? And they're strictly volunteers. And when you on that committee, and you're out here and you're going and buying stuff, you're getting the meals for the stuff, you're moving the tables and everything, and one person can tear you down so bad, why would you want to be on that committee? I'm telling you. And there's two people right here to attest to exactly what I just said. So once you get on a committee, it's a continual thing. That's an every week or every month deal. So before you say yes to your name on that, because you don't need somebody who's going to be on a committee and do nothing after the first month. And that's what you're getting into with a lot of these committee things. Oh yeah, I'm on the golf committee, but I've only attended 3 meetings in a year and a half. So you really need to commit to the committee before you put your name on it, because you're just hurting the rest of the people on.
Well, we have.
Don't we need to vote on this?
Yes, we have a second person of
Why
second.
can't you just make a motion today that you are going to vote on an ad hoc committee consisting of to investigate whatever elections, whatever it is they're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, that is one item, one committee, one vote. Miss Woody?
Well, I think what Dan said and Sandy reiterated was what the intent of this is that, I don't know if the board needs to approve every one or not, but that'd be fine. It didn't work out very well before. They got a lot of crossways information back and forth, and that's why I thought that if the board approved an executive committee and let the executive committee do what they wanted with the ad hoc committees. That way it didn't have to come back before the board for approval for this, for approval for that. However, this is where we're at now. This is why we're having this discussion.
But they don't approve of
I want to
anything.
just mention to you that I've been on 5 different ad hoc committees for the United Medical Center. And the way that functions through Robert's Rules of Order, and maybe we need a parliamentarian to keep us straight, is the president of the board picks the issue and appoints the ad hoc committee. They finish their project, do their research, they bring it back to the president of the board. He then shares it with the board. That's the way an ad hoc committee is, a single issue thing. One subject only. The president of the board appoints the ad hoc committee and picks the subject. Now, if you want to disband and have another ad hoc committee, go look at another subject, that's fine. But when I'm on an ad hoc committee for them, they say, go find a site for a new clinic. And it has to be this size, this size, this size. That can't go look at anything else or talk about anything else. And when I finish, and that ad hoc committee that finishes that project, you bring it back to the president of the board, then he shares it with the board. If it's not what you wanted, that's up to you all to decide. But you don't get off in all these tangents. You don't, it's not any subjects. To me, you put this on here as examples of what they would do. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you would appoint this ad hoc committee to do. But it's only a single issue, and you appoint it, the ad hoc committee, and you pick the issue. Now, that issue could be a consensus of your opinion.
Well, I didn't want it to be dictatorial, and I wanted to
Well,
create.
then a consensus of the opinion of the board, but that's the way it works.
I like the committee idea. Are we ready to vote on it?
Any more discussion?
I'd like to withdraw my motion, because it doesn't have a second anyway. Put
Yes,
that
it
one
did.
in there.
It had a second.
Marta did. I
Well, she
withdrew my
withdrew it.
second.
Oh, she was.
And then made a motion. In place of it. You didn't hear it? Sandy seconded it, she reiterated it.
No, I was just reiterating, that. I think the first step, if we're going to do this, the first step, if the board agrees, or we'll vote on it, whether or not we need this executive committee, and we will be on it. That's it. Just that, just the executive committee for the purpose of determining whether we even need ad hoc committees, and if so, where we need them. Not which committees or where it's gonna go.
Basically, the first sentence, create executive committee to appoint ad hoc committees as needed.
And then secondly, when you put this on the agenda, probably should have been just without anybody's name on there.
Right, they transcribed exactly what I wrote instead of shortening it
Yeah,
up.
well, you need to show it. But anyway, whether or not Myrna and B have the time, the inclination to do that, or whether, because I know B has his pharmacy to run, one of these other people that are here all the time and meet during the week or whatever is necessary. But I think the only issue here is the create executive committee, period. Do we want to do that or not for the purpose of establishing temporary?
Is that what the motion and the second is now?
I don't know.
That's what I have written down. The motion I have written down was to create the exec committee to appoint an ad hoc and be seconded. That's what I have written down.
Any more discussion?
I'd like to say one thing. According to Helen Marie Jones, you as a board president would have the right to decide what ad hoc committee needs, and will bring it forward, and they would agree with you. And I think any ad hoc committee should be board approved, and then whoever's going to chair that, and I totally agree with her on that.
I don't agree with that, just wrote the board.
We as a board have a right to determine whether we want an executive committee or we want to appoint one person.
And that's the motion now.
Right.
That's what
We
we're.
have that motion now on the floor.
Hold on, crap.
All in favor? All in favor of the executive voting to have, all in favor of the board appointing an executive committee? Motion carries unanimously.
Take a member from a member, it sounds like you just put your job off on somebody else.
That's what this,
Sounded what?
Yeah. Did you get that?
No, what?
I said, as a member listening, it sounds like you have just put past your job onto somebody else to do.
Well, I wanted to, it may be, but I wanted to be a little bit more democratic than my position only.
well, but with the input of the board, the consensus of the board, you can do it.
Next item is discussion and approval of all documents being online, including profit and loss for the Ford entities.
Well, for purpose of discussion, that's number what? Number 10, that all documents be put online, including P&L for all Ford entities.
Do we have a second?
We don't have enough memory.
I'll second it for discussion.
We have a second. I think all the documents need to be online for the members. However, in our bylaw, in the HOA law, if we decide we're going to run by that, okay, we'll have a break. We'll recess for 10 minutes and come back and continue on our discussion.